Are the other mics off?
Check something.
There's nothing coming from here. I thought it was the floor mics. Hari Om. Are we in the last paragraph of the pledge? We believe that the service of our country is the service of the Lord of Lords, and devotion to the people is the devotion to the Supreme Self. We know our responsibilities. Give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. Om Tat Sat. See, sometimes when we represent ourselves as Hindu, ourselves as Indian, when we are asked various questions, our representation, first of all, we try to avoid such. Second, if we do answer, it is not to the mark. And third, we sometimes even agree with the one who is questioning. I also think I have a question there. Like as simple a question as what is Hinduism? Then we'll have as many heads, that many answers. What is a Hindu scripture? And we have a range of them that we answer in. But at least coming here, many of you have been here last year, should know the answer. What is our scripture? Don't give me a heart attack now. Venkatji, hold. What is our scripture? Vedas, Upanishads. You don't need to specifically mention as Vedas and Upanishads. Just saying Vedas is more than sufficient. There are other aspects of our scriptures which are the Shruti is the Veda, Smriti, considering Bhagavad Gita also as a Smriti, or Manusmriti, code of conduct is given in there. But you ask the generic population, they'll say Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, they'll give umpteen number of. The simple answer would be Veda, and we are not uniform in our answer. And sometimes when the question gets tricky, like sometimes when I go to this UT Southwestern or UTD or SMU, and I have more than our Hindu kids, they bring in their friends as well. I mean, they have some questions. And that's why I say that you can ask me question after I have gotten the liberty to confuse you. With your pre-existing confusions, I am not liable. Because sometimes they are very tricky questions. That's one way to avoid those tricky questions. When you go to such platforms, one question that I have often heard is in two formats: isn't Hinduism a selfish religion? Or why is Hinduism a selfish religion? Have you ever heard of such question? You just heard it. I've been often questioned as to why is Hinduism a selfish religion. And coming from like out of the blue asking this question, ask them, from what perspective, what understanding did you come to this conclusion that Hinduism is a selfish religion? Well, what we were told that Hindus believe in personal liberation, salvation, which is happiness. They focus on their personal happiness. There is never a focus or never an aspect taught that you're a part of this community, society, humanity, and you have to participate in that community. You have to participate and give. The fellow beings are not the focus, it is just your own happiness. So that makes it selfish. There's a point. Because whoever taught them or introduced them did not give a comprehensive picture. And coming from outside, when you look at the focus being on moksha, it appears highly selfish. Right? How many of you here do not know how to swim? Including myself. Okay. So the rest of you know how to swim? Very good. Of those who know how to swim, how many of you are qualified as a lifeguard? One. Okay, my question is targeted to you. Have you gone through the lifeguard course? So you're not certified, but you're qualified. I mean, capable. But you have done it in the past. Okay, that's fair enough. So what does it take? What is the difference between a normal swimmer and somebody to be a certified lifeguard? I can float, but my floating is I can sink delayed. So you are not just a swimmer, but you are also someone who can, while floating, save someone else as well. Right? And if somebody like me, quite inspired, jumps in to save, do you know how to swim? You don't know yourself how to swim, how are you going to save the other fellow? Sarcastically put, the world population will be reduced by 2. But that is not help. And on a broader scale and a different picture, yes, maybe. But that is not help. See, in the airlines, there's a lot of Vedanta in their announcement. Have you ever? And I've been flying so many times that now I go in, put on my noise cancellers, and I am out. I'm already asleep before the flight begins. They have sense of humor too. They have sense of humor wherein they say, now sit, pull your seats to upright position. Tha kitna yaar? Still, that's their sense of humor. Once recently when I was flying, it was I think the holiday season, there were a bunch of kids in the flight, and the announcer said, whenever the cabin pressure is low, there will be these oxygen masks that will fall in, and you put it on this way and pull the cord. Even if the bag is not inflating, the oxygen is still flowing. Don't puncture it, thinking that there's no oxygen flowing. Once you have secured yourself, then help your children or the others who you have to support. And there was this kid. must be about 8, 10 years old, and this kid, very loud in that flight, he says, "That's not fair." Because the message that he has probably gotten everywhere is, think about others first than yourself. That's a message that he has always gotten. But in the flight, it was the other side, wherein they said, first think about yourself, then you can think about the rest of them. And he says, that's not fair. And the entire flight was like laughing. And he didn't give up. He said, why are you laughing? Then the mother came in and they tried to, pacify him. Then the air hostess, after the flight took off, and then she came in and tried to explain it to the kid. I get it. Later. Now, if somebody makes a statement that is selfish, that you first put your oxygen mask, it is childish. So similarly, when somebody says or corners saying that Hinduism is selfish, it is like the child's words. I say this in the public, the person who are you calling my question childish question? No, I wouldn't just call it childish and leave it there, but I would try to explain it as well. That we can be a positive contributor only when we have acquired enough to give. I cannot give that which I don't have. Can I? And this is one common experiment that we do every year. Does everybody have a wallet or a purse? Please pull them out. Dasra time. No, this is not going to impact your fundraising event. वैसे आप भी अपना वॉलेट निकालिए है ओ द एप्पल पे ना प्लीज आई एम सीरियस गुड आई नीड $100 in your hands. I'm not asking you to give it to me. 100, 10 tens, 5 20s. Disqualified. Anybody else? All those who have 100, raise their hand. Okay, meet me later. Thank you for putting the effort to take your wallet out and checking if you have $100. Does it mean the rest of you don't have money? Not in the format definitely which I'm asking in. And not definitely that you don't have money, but not right now. What good is the resource if you don't have it right now? Because that which you have alone can be given. And the Hindu perspective is to first acquire that, and that is the very significance even of the Navaratri times, that the first 3 days we invoke Durga Devi, whereby we remove all the negative tendencies. At least that is the focus. Other than just cooking, eating, and wearing pretty clothes and dancing around. The purpose of the puja and invocation of Durga Devi is to remove those negative qualities. Once a very busy man came down to meet Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa ji. And he was like, I've heard that for spirituality you need urgency. I don't have time. Give me that spirituality now. And Ramakrishna Paramahansaji said, at this point, what I can give you as a message, as a pointer, is give up all your negativities, come back, then I'll tell you how to develop the positive. Otherwise, it is a very frustrating thing. One side you keep cleaning, the other side, where there is a source of dirt and accumulation, that is not taken care. It's very frustrating, especially when children are at home in during the vacations. One side you keep cleaning, the other side they keep. And I'm told that the worst thing is the Legos. Those damn little things are everywhere. And you keep collecting them, gathering them, putting them aside, and then by the time you're done and gone to the next room and you come back, it's all over the place again. Before creating something great, first you have to clean all the dirt out. Then the 3 days is in invoking Lakshmi Devi, who is the embodiment of all positive resources. Though our attention focus starts and stops right at the bank balance. And Lakshmi Devi is Dhana Lakshmi. It is not just Dhana Lakshmi, there are other aspects of Lakshmi ji as well. Having thus enriched with positive qualities, then the last 3 days is focused on the Sadbuddhi or Sadvidya through the invocation of Saraswati Devi. Similarly, if we, both individually and at the level of totality, if I and we together have to be a productive, positive contribution to the society, to the environment that we exist in, what is the first thing that we have to do? Stop being an active contributor to that which is negative and detrimental. Isn't that a good start? Otherwise, one person does something and the entire group gets branded. All South Indians are like this. All North Indians are like this. And people from Bombay try to wriggle out from both. All West Indies are like this. Are all black people like this? All Mexicans are like this. In fact, I was at somebody's house where they had invited their American friends, their friends from office. And this guy is a VP or a director, one of those levels. And says, working with the Indians, I have understood why a handful of British could rule over a billion plus population. And when he was making that statement, I was hurting from inside. And he was stating a fact. He said, to run and do my admin, I don't need to divide you people. You come divided. I just have to rule. The British had to divide you to rule. The cohesiveness is lacking. And this is an outside observer. Therefore, I keep saying that the way I define Indians is individually we are ingenious people. collectively a disastrous calamity. तूफान मचा के आते हैं. Before we can think of being a positive contribution to the society, a sense of pride, a sense of worthfulness, that which I am representing, that which I am associated with, should be instilled so high that what I do impacts the totality. There was this Swamiji, I must have told this story. There was this Swamiji who had gone to Japan long time ago, in the late 60s, early 70s. And he happened to share his experience. It was Ekadashi, he was fasting. So he thought a train ride to the next place that he was going, he thought that trains would be like Indian trains. Chai, samosa, pakoda, cool drink. And he said nothing was being sold on the train. And maybe on the platform. And the platform were like clean. There was nobody. The people standing there, all Russian. People who get out don't stop there, just leave. The platform is empty. There's nothing there. So every platform he was getting off to check if he could buy something. There was this Japanese guy who was sitting next to him or in front of him. Said, "Sir, may I ask you why are you expecting someone? Have you missed your place? Are you lost?" Then he explained the fasting that he was observing. So the next stop again, this Swamiji got down. The other fellow also got down. Swamiji again disappointed, came back and sat. Just about the train was to leave, the doors were to close. The guy who was sitting on the opposite direction, he jumps in with a basket of fruits. And he must have run out somewhere, grabbed those fruits and come back in. And he gives this Swamiji the fruits. And he says, "How much do I owe you? How much do I pay you?" He says, "No, when you go back to your country, don't tell that in Japan we don't have fruits. That would be my pay." The sense of pride to that which we belong. Because that effort that I put, it represents not just me. It represents the entire totality that I am by default associated with. By default, what are we associated with? Brown skin, default. We are associated with India. What did you say? Technical support, software, computers. What else are we associated with? Our religion, our tradition, our customs. So what I do does matter. How I do, it does matter. Because there are millions watching and I represent. That is why I did cover that aspect as well. One subtler than the other. So I started with the grossest, brown skin. From there I went to Indianness. From there I went to the Hindu tradition, culture. One grosser and one subtler than the other. So it was in a organized pattern. I do accept what you're saying, but it does not negate the fact that we are branded as that as well. But coming back to the point, as I, the individual, do what I do, it is not insignificant because I represent the totality. And one person that comes to my mind is Hanumanji. When he represented himself, his first name that he would introduce himself with would always be, I am Ramaduta, also known as Hanuman. I am representing something higher. And that sense of association to something higher stops us from behaving or doing something which is not noble. Once that sense of worthfulness, once that integrity within, both at the individual level and at the totality level, is generated, then such people coming together, pulling up their resources, strengthening themselves from within, and thus thereby strengthening the environment that we are existing in and being a positive contributor to where we are. Now, if you realize, we are going through the pledge, and this pledge, as I said in the beginning, is the direction, is the sense of purpose for the mission, for the larger platform of our Sanatana Dharma. Why do we have to have an organized platform of religion? So that these rough edges that are there are polished away, smoothened, cleaned, and coming together, pulling up the resources, supporting each other, strengthening each other, rather than pulling each other down, strengthening and supporting. And then collectively, we can sit and prioritize what best can we contribute to the environment that we are in. And look at the broad-mindedness of Gurudev in his vision when he gave this in the early 60s. He did not mention that we believe that the service of India is the service of the Lord of Lords. He says, whichever country that you are a part of, where it has supported you to sustain you for your growth, there your participation, there your contribution is as much a requirement as much as you have been supported. And always our prayers have been as universal as possible. We have never been partial in our prayers. When we say Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, we don't say Sarve Hindavaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Even that identity is small in the perspective of rishis. If religion is a ladle to stir up the society, it is one of the ladles. What is a broader picture? The broader picture is everyone. And in the last sentence there they say, Sarve meaning not just human beings. Every form of creature, may they experience peace and happiness. Now, from that broad-minded perspective of collective togetherness and productive existence, positive productive existence, where are we when we gather together? I have been here for 15 years. And there are so many temples that have come up. As soon as I get a call from a group of people saying, Swamiji, we are starting a temple. Nowadays, I'm like, oh no. I have seen a pattern. that within 3 to 4 months, I'll get a call from two different groups of the same temple committee. And what is it? They don't have land. They don't have a temple structure. They don't have anything. They've just gathered together as one group. Already the group is ready to split into two. Based on what? What color the statue should be. White stone, black stone. की फर्क पैंदा है यार? What difference does it make? Yeah, that is why I go with Michael Jackson, black or white. Put black and white.
The identity is what in every speech you give,
Oh,
there is an identity.
no. Are you taking it tangential or are you taking
It's
it?
a very serious.
Oh, Rama.
No, you're saying give up the identity.
I'm not saying give up the identity. Come to one focal point and get together. So when such people come, I have a better solution. I said, leave black, leave white. Have an alloy of 5 metals. न रहेगी बाज न बजेगी बांसुरी.
Christians very clearly, they proclaim Jesus, right? Hindu was represented by, Mama Ishwar from, one of the temples, right? She gave a universal prayer. Nobody understood whether it was Hindu or whether it was just a universal poetic verse that was recited. There was no identity there. There was no tie up to any of the Hindu devatas or gods. So, in an interfaith dialogue, we just did not have any identity, and we had a very universal scope. So I think to this point, that identity is very critical when you are among people that are trying to, identify.
I think this is going quite tangential to what I'm saying. Because the discussion is, instead of finding the identity and oneness, what do we find? We find small little differences to deviate from that identity and to become separate. We don't come together. That is the main point. He started one tangent and you went into a completely tangent to his tangent. So let us come back to the focal point. British is past. That is why we still are being ruled. It is a present tense filled with tensions. We cannot come together to one focal point. Give me two people, I'll give you three parties. My party, your party, and our party. And then the neo-intellectuals from that perspective will say, that is why the other religions are better. We lack. We should have one book, one God, one day. That is not a radical statement. That is a childish statement. Sophistication is in multitude, which can cater to multiple needs for multiple levels. Understanding this multitude and bringing it to one focal point, that is the criteria. That was the perspective of the rishis in bringing this as a platform wherein the temple, wherein that institution becomes the hub for spiritual progress, hub for cultural, traditional, educational, social, all these aspects put together, even economic. the temple was the hub wherein all this diversity was provided for, accommodated, and supported. Yes.
Not to throw a tangent, but then you think people became like this on their own? I mean, we are the people, and by extension, the millions of beings who live and continue to live. The temple was the hub, and that was what they were serving.
I know where this tangent is going. No. I understand what
Suddenly, one prayer brings it together.
Sandeep ji, I know where this is going. A better way to look at it is that which has happened in the past. The present discussion is not about that. The present discussion is, in spite of that, this vision of Gurudev's is to bring that diversified back to one focal point. That was his vision, which I would say is quite successful in bringing multiple various. And when in this platform, it is not whether you are south or north. It is not whether you are a Shaiva or a Vaishnava. It is not whether you are whichever tradition, whichever sampradaya. Every sampradaya is brought together and united in that unison. And one great benefit, there were 1400 kids that are benefiting from this. I'm just taking one little slice. There are about 60 to 80 Yuva Kendra members that are benefiting just from this center. And that next generation getting benefited can happen only when we come together. And this is one productive, positive impact that we see. And then there are next layers wherein this can be taken further. Wherein coming together, we can be the positive, productive group. To bring that unison, to bring that oneness in spite of the diversity. And it cannot be that fingers are different sizes and shapes, they have different utilities. I cannot suddenly say I chop them all to one size. In spite of their multitude, they come together to accomplish something. That focal point, when it is created, the purpose of religion is served. Purpose of organized religion is served. If the religion does not bring that togetherness, then that platform is hypocritical. That platform is misused. That platform is not meant for making money, not meant for any other purpose other than bringing together and redistributing it, strengthening the rest. That should be the purpose. If we understand this, here in the last sentence he says, we know is if we understand. If we understand this, understand our responsibility, that it is not just I, me, my family, but I, me, my family put together with the other families, we come together, understanding the responsibility at a broader picture, give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. Because it takes tremendous courage to be that unit which brings unity among diversity. To rally up people for a greater cause is not an easy task. Because we don't have arguments about the vision or the value, but we will start having arguments about the opinions. And what becomes of an issue is my opinion nobler than your opinion. And there can be multitudes of opinions. Millions of opinions. Is there only one way of doing things? There are multiple ways of doing it. Otherwise, if we don't understand it both at an individual level, at a totality level, we'll become perfectionists. And by definition, who are perfectionists? Those who are perfectly miserable. I can expect perfection from myself, but when I start expecting the perfection from others around, I can stand as an ideal to be that perfect, so that others feel that inspiration to yearn towards that perfection. I cannot push them towards perfection. I can't hear you.
We know what the issues are, we know what the problems are, we don't know how to solve them.
Come regularly. Case in point, come regularly. Thank you. Because that is what we discuss. And as I said in the beginning, this is a platform that I want to maintain wherein I can have a dialogue with. It's not just a monologue like my Jnana Yajnas where I speak and you listen. Here is a platform wherein topics are raised. I open it up, explain it. Wherever there are tangents, I'll stop them. But on point.
There is truth, there is false. If truth makes a deal with false, for whatever truth is and whatever falsehood is, truth is diluted, falsehood gets strengthened. Right? So anywhere you say there should be a compromise to work together, there is one side is going to be right.
You're misquoting me. I did not say compromise. There should be understanding.
It will not happen, right? It's only a temporary agreement all the time. When somebody is giving up their stance to move towards something, it is going to be oscillating between this side and the other side before a breaking point is arrived at.
See, moving from where you are holding the standpoint, if it is something higher, nobler, and better than where you are holding, it's always worth to leave where you are for that higher, nobler.
So if you want an example from the temple scenario, right? I do believe that religion can be diluted, but God, the way you see God cannot be diluted, right?
Can God be diluted?
That's what I'm saying. It cannot be diluted. So
That God who can be invoked in a betel nut, that God who can be invoked in a turmeric, that God who can be invoked in a stone, however infinite small,
then imagery itself is questionable, right?
it is not questionable.
No, you're saying the omnipresence of God, but what I'm saying is the way we visualize, the way I adapt or I worship, is cannot be subject to deal making or debate at all. I don't know. I'm not getting you to a tangent, but it's a
Okay, I'll table this. मेरे रूम में बात करेंगे. क्लास के बाद देखा जाएगा. हाँ जी. No, I think I understand where you are focusing, and since the rest of them, so we'll table it and discuss it. I think I know where you are focusing, or the right word would be caught up. Anyway, coming back to your question. So to understand the problem is 50% of the solution. The other 50% is to find when to zoom in, when to zoom out, to find the solution which is right next to it all the time, most of the time. And Vedanta gives us that capacity to see that. Therefore, I was not joking when I said that please come regularly, because that is what is being discussed. So that was the vision that Gurudev had, he gave for the functioning of Chinmay mission, or rather the functioning of a family as a unit, as an individual, the entire religion together, so that it becomes a positive environment for oneself as well as for the entire world around. Other than that question, any other questions? Yes. Even in you're brought up here, even here, are there not differences like Southerners, East Coast, West Coast, just by their accent, their habits, their eating habits, different? Are there not differences? No, I know. Before I go there are differences. And in Hinduism, the differences every 60 kilometers or 70 kilometers, accent changes, language changes. In India, we have about 23 languages and 1600 dialects. With a country where there is only one language, English, and within that English, they have differences. Now, with already existing differences of different languages, 23 languages, within each language, different dialects, different habits, one thing that, in spite of these differences, unites them all is the religion. The values, whether it is south, north, or different linguistic differences that I just mentioned, there may be traditions that are different from one area to the other. But when you go into the subtlest aspect, the value that it is based off of remains common. Luckily for me, I have grown up from kindergarten to 12th in 11 different schools across 11 different states in India. So growing up looking at various traditions, I didn't realize it then, but now that experience has given me a perspective to see that all these differences, that so-called differences, the underlying thing that which connects them is very strong. So whenever people come with that, uh, the difference of opinions, difference of standpoints, as I was telling him, I take them to the underlying concept, underlying value there, which had led to these different traditions. And once that is understood, you have gathered to a higher level of clarity and understanding. That for various reasons maybe was not explained for a generation or two, because survival was the key. You just got freedom, or you are fighting for freedom, and after fighting for freedom everything is scattered. Now you have to survive on your own, find your own footing. The religion was not the focus for somebody who has survival at stake. And now that we are settling in well, it has becoming the focal point.
Whether you go to the north of India or south, east or west, right? Go to the villages, you may not know Veda, but there is one underlying principle, right, of the civilization, which is the principle of karma. You say it's my karma, right? Even a villager will know what is karma. I think the theory of karma is an unifying factor across east, west, north.
I wouldn't specifically pick one concept. There is a whole intertwined uh, value system that binds it. Karma being one of them. Does it? Do I? No, please continue understanding the higher purpose and clarity that will give glory to that tradition that you belong to. Chalo, you have 5 minutes. If you have no questions, कभी जल्दी जाने ही नहीं देते.
I mean, I wanted to ask this question, but there's no right to that question. I have a son who's in 10th, 12th, right? And he's studying right now world history. And the very first chapter in world history is talking about English and India, right? And so he asked me in the first week or second week, Dad, my teacher is telling me that Hitler, Nazi symbol, and the Hinduism swastika are related, and people came from there to India. And is that true? And he was not happy about it. Is that true? Are they connected to what Hitler did? And I didn't have an answer at all, right? So, how do I explain that to him?
4 मिनट और 5,000 साल का हिस्ट्री बड़ी नाइंसाफी है. See, the concept of Aryan was introduced by a researcher employed by the British called Max Muller, who was a century or a century and a half before Hitler. Max Muller was given that task because before him, about 30 years before him, there was this study under Lord Macaulay, who came to India. Max Muller never came to India. Macaulay came down and investigated northwest, east, south. He went through and he found that the pride in Vedic culture is what is not allowing them to break the Indian society into pieces. That there is so much of resistance, that pride in it. If and when that pride is broken, that society can be easily infiltrated and used. Their Gurukula system, which instills this pride, that has to be broken. So then they brought in Max Muller, and his job was to put the entire history and the knowledge of our Sanatana Dharma in and around 2000 years, trying to portray that your civilization is not that ancient, not that great. It has loopholes. And there are other things that he inserted in. One such concept was the Aryan. It is a Sanskrit word. Arya means respected one. Like in Hindi, we say Ji. In Japanese, they say San. Similarly, in Sanskritam, it was Arya. And the feminine form for that was Arya. Adi Shankaracharyaji's mother's name was Aryamba. This is way before Max Muller, way before Nazi. Saying that the word Arya is in Sanskrit and it was used to address each other respectfully. It was not a cult. Aryans were not a cult. Aryans were not an ethnicity or a religious group. Then he created the Dravidian. Dravidian is not an ethnicity. Dravidian is not a religious group. It is not a cult. Dravida in Sanskrit means the peninsular plateau, the Indian triangular peninsula, that is called Dravida. It's a geographical description, not the people. It's a description of the land, a geographical piece. So the Dravidians and Aryans was a concept introduced by Max Muller. Influenced that the Aryans invaded from the north into India, bringing all this culture was the purpose of British. That you yourself were demonic people, you did not have any culture. That which you claim came in from north or northeast, closer to the European. From there came these true breed, and they educated you. They put culture in you. This is not yours. That was the standpoint which Max Muller brought in. And Hitler got inspired with that thought. So Max Muller's that thought led to the annihilation of whatever the Nazi movement, I mean, whatever they created, a whole exodus of people. He was inspired by that Max Mullerian thought. And from there, the word swastika is again a Sanskrit word. That which is in the natural state of existence, swasthatha. Swasthatha again, swasthiti. That which is in its natural equilibrium. And therefore, it is written in a clockwise direction and it has a sense of equilibrium in it. And there are various modes that it is written, sometimes with a circular curve, sometimes just straight. They're all considered as swastika. Whereas the Nazi have a reverse and in an angular position. They still call it a swastika. That is where they got the information from. Now, listening and reading through Max Muller's uh, whatever his analysis, Hitler saw a great importance in the Vedic culture. Therefore, he had sent a lot of expeditions to get the Vedas and research into it. That the impact that in Germany, the second language taught in various schools and universities is Sanskritam. Hopefully, I have answered. Now you can research into these 3-4 names: Macaulay, Max Muller, Hitler. So you see the timeline and you'll find the answers.
There is a book by Nalagiri called The Historical Perspective of the Vedas, which talks about the 10 nations in the region, right? That kind of went out of India. There is
Yes,
out of India,
yes, I see the reference, right.
going to Saint Augusta, which is Zoroastrian, which is anti, both of them have common, Aryan kind of roots. The Iranians call themselves the land of
That's why I said a 5,000-year history to say in 4 minutes is an impossible task.
To add a 10-second thought to that one, the recent genomic evidence that's between the Aryans, the Medians, and whole India, there is no difference. So to add that there is no Aryans, there is no Dravidians, if there is one, there should have the genome should have been followed. So that's again proven to be wrong.
Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.